Beauty, it's race Sundays, and this week we are in Spa. Here's our lineup for this week, and you'll notice that we played the no negative chip. Uh, you know whether that was right or wrong, we will discuss this. So yeah, so why did we play the no negative chip?
It's spa, and spa traditionally has a lot of water, just like a real spa.
Exactly, right. So yeah, it's no, it's usually a low risk there because usually you get a lot of accidents and stuff like that happens in Spa. And
Spa's got a. I mean, listen, Spa tradition, like one of the only tracks that's been on the calendar since F1 started back in, was it 1950, 1951. So a lot of tradition there. It's the longest track on the calendar, I believe, 7 kilometers long. Lots of elevation change, and it is notorious for rain. And unfortunately for accidents. So we had a couple of years ago in the F2 race, Antoine Hubert was unfortunately killed in coming out of Eau Rouge up into Raidillon. And then earlier this year we actually had I think it was a Formula 4 or 2000. Anyways, it was a young 18-year-old driver who unfortunately I can't remember his name. He was killed same place. So I mean, it's risky, it's rainy. And I think this weekend they took a lot of good precautions with the race.
yeah, definitely a wet race. And I mean, the other reason we did the no negative is that it's a sprint weekend. So
Yeah.
this is one of the times where during the sprint weekends is when you actually you should be playing your chips. But you got to be selective. You got to be selective. I do know that people that played their unlimited chips as well. I probably wouldn't do that.
I'm
It's
gonna
a
wait on
tough
that
one.
one. Yeah.
But yeah, I did see. I mean, some of those people were relatively successful with their chips. Maybe got lucky a little bit. And I was actually cheering pretty hard for Red Bull to not do well, but like they did well, which is still.
Yeah, I mean, to understand it, for those of you who aren't, if you're in fantasy and you haven't really tried the no negative, or you're not, basically if your driver gets a negative total score, for example, in their Oscar Piastri, you just get a 0. You don't take the negative hit, so it nullifies it. So we were kind of in the sprint almost hoping we'd see Max get taken out because everybody has Max on their card, but if everybody else didn't play no negative and we did, and he ends up with a negative score because it's a multiplier, then it's to our benefit.
Exactly.
Anyways, it was a good race. So sprints, first of all, sprint weekend, so we only have one practice, then we have qualifying on Friday, then we have sprint shootout on Saturday, which is basically like a miniature version of qualifying, much faster. Then we have sprint race, and then Sunday you get the actual race. So lots of wet, which meant they didn't get really any dry running at all. In free practice and qualifying, in the shootout or the sprint, it was all wet.
Right. Yeah. And I mean the sprint race, essentially the shootout itself was delayed.
Delayed a lot.
Partly delayed. I mean, it was a 2-hour shootout, essentially, right?
Yeah, it was about, I think, 20-30 minute delay because it was just pouring rain. And then the track quickly evolved. They went out first on wets and then on intermediates, and then eventually it dried up enough that they were out there on softs. So it was great shootout. McLarens were living up to the hype, I'll say. Max is always performing well. But yeah, it was for a split second there, people thought Oscar Piastri was on pole.
Yeah, I mean he had the lead. He had the lead for a while.
Oh, in the race, yeah, in the sprint
race
yeah.
too. So
but I'm saying Oscar almost had pole for the sprint.
Oh, that's true. I mean,
and Max just yoinked it at the last
by
second.
0.11 milliseconds. Is what he had. Outpaced them by, which was insane. That's pretty insane. So. Who ultimately, the top 3 in the sprint race itself?
Oh, and we should say there were some crashes. Alonso and Perez both crashed out.
In the sprint race.
Yeah,
so who ultimately came in the top 3? Well, you got... Oops, that's the wrong position. You have... I think this might be the way. So, you have Pierre Gasly doing it for his friend, Antoine.
Yeah, very moving, I think, ceremony on Thursday in honor of his friend who, as I said, lost his life there a couple of years ago.
And number 2, You got
Oscar, who led the race for a little bit. He got a great jump off the line and took the lead early, and then Max hunted him down.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a really like basically if you had a couple more safety cars and stuff like that,
maybe
he could have done well. He could have actually won. But he even said he's like, obviously Max won, but he even said like, yeah, I won whatever it is I won.
Yeah, it's weird. So in F2 and F3, like the sprint is like the points count, but they get like a full podium ceremony and trophies, and in F1 with the sprints it's really weird. They don't get a ceremony.
You get this little
like a medal,
little gold bar medal thingy that you
and then they pose.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. So that's why Oscar's kind of that, but it's his first win, so that's good.
Right. So let's talk about the feature race.
And through the magic of TV, we have reset the cards.
Or ghetto editing.
Ghetto editing.
That's what I like to call it. Magic of the pause button. Anyways, but so the actual race itself was interesting.
First of all, the rain didn't happen.
Yeah, rain didn't happen.
It sprinkled. It sprinkled, and that helped some of our drivers, in particular, helped McLaren. So Lando Norris's car was looking sluggish in the dry. In fact, I think at one point he fell all the way to 18th. I think he started like 5th or 6th. He fell to 18th, and then like a tiny bit of rain fell, and I mean a tiny amount, and his car just came alive.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It's like he got sprinkled with some sort of rain fairy dust, spa fairy dust, or something like that. But
and he ended up finishing in 7th.
Yeah, he actually fell back. So if you had him in a fantasy, he did lose you a little bit of points, but not too much. What I was actually it was actually interesting from the qualifying standpoint. You saw Alex Albon, and he actually started. He missed out the in qualifying. But he did drive up the pack, which was amazing. Like he looked like he was in a rocket ship, and yeah.
Well, because there was some people knocking themselves out during qualifying and rain. I mean, anyways, it was a mess, and that's what happened. But yeah, he had a rocket ship. In the end, he wore through his tires a little bit too fast. The Williams still have almost the same problem with Ferrari with their tires. So he had to do 3 pit stops. Actually, both Williams did.
Yeah, I guess you were asking, like, why are you in at the end?
He was sitting in like just outside the points, and then had to go back, but he drove up again. So, anyways.
So let's talk about the top 3.
Well, let's talk about what happened on.
Well, let's talk about the top 3, and then we can talk about what happened after.
Right.
Okay, so top 3, and with some magic, we had Ferrari on podium. What the heck's going on? We had
he had pole.
He had pole, and I mean Verstappen actually had a penalty, a grid penalty.
Six grid, but
5 grid penalty.
Legitimately had pole.
Exactly.
Max was actually second.
Right, and then in number 2, Sergio how Sergio got his groove back.
He was legitimately third, and because Max took the penalty, he was started second and he finished second. So really nothing happened.
And with some Red Bull magic, well, not really.
Max was 6th because of the engine penalty and finished first. Well, he's Max Verstappen.
He is Max Verstappen, and want to know who was going to be his guest on the podcast? These were. It
was a good podcast too.
Yeah. So let's talk about. Let's talk about the start of the race and what happened while we opened some packs. So Piastri doing fantastic. Drove up and essentially got squeezed out by operator.
So exactly what happened was Charles Leclerc and Max and Sergio. So Max gets away, good start coming up the pack. Sergio Leclerc get away, good start right at the front. Sainz was, I think, starting 4th or 5th, so ahead of Max, and he had a lockup. Hamilton was in the mix there too, has a lockup, and couldn't quite control the car and went over to the side, and Piastri felt brave going up the inside of that first turn, and basically
he thought he could squeeze, but he couldn't.
Well, I don't think he had anywhere to go, to be honest, but he ended up between Sainz and the wall, and so he had a lot of damage and was pretty much instantly out. The funnier part was actually Sainz. Yeah,
Sainz drove
21 laps with a giant hole in the side of his car.
And everyone's like, what the heck's going on? That's a nice Seb.
He is a personality of the year.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, he drove with this giant gaping hole for 23 laps or something like that. And it's like, why don't you just retire the car? It's like, what data are you trying to get?
No, it wasn't they were trying to get data. They said later in the post race that they were trying to see if a red flag would happen because then they thought they could patch up the car. So
I don't know about like, what are you going to put, like a bunch of duct tape?
Well, no, I don't know. They thought maybe they can change the cover out. I have no idea, but they.
I mean, it's a side pod. It's basically the side pod that's sort of ripped out, right? So.
But they have panels for everything.
True. Jack Doohan. He had actually a good race.
He had both days, the Saturday and the Sunday. He scored buku points.
Right, but I think it's Fittipaldi actually. No.
Saturday Fittipaldi won, and Sunday Doohan won.
Yeah, but Fittipaldi was still in the top.
Fittipaldi's top three both.
Top days. 3 in both days. Yeah. So. Ooh, this is a green card. Lewis Hamilton.
He loves Brazil.
The Hammer. I think this is numbered out of 199. That's pretty cool.
That's neat.
That's a really neat card. Yuki actually drove really well this week.
Really, really well.
Really well. I mean, like, where did Ricciardo finish?
Like 18th or.
Yeah, pretty much.
18th or 17th. Like basically bottom. I don't know how low in the bottom, but the bottom.
Yeah, he was not very good this race. I mean, but he is driving a garbage car. So
but the truth is, I don't think that it's Yuki's so much better than Ricciardo or anything like that. I think Yuki's just used to driving a very bad car.
Right. I mean, speaking of bad cars, and well, I don't know maybe about bad cars, but
Alpine, that's a talking point.
Yeah, so let's talk about Alpine since we got the
bad cars.
Since we got bad cars and the GOAT next. But like, yeah, I mean, let's talk about Omar.
Well, so Alpine's team principal and Alpine's technical director, I believe, both out. Anyways, there's a bunch of shakeups at Alpine. Team principal and one other guy out, and a third guy leaving to go to Williams.
Yeah. So it was. I mean, did we see that coming? Probably. I mean, with all the stuff that happened last year.
I'm just surprised that Omar wasn't out last year after he lost Oscar Piastri, and then they felt so smug early in the season when McLaren didn't have a car, and now look, the minute McLaren has even a remotely decent car. Where's Oscar, front of the pack?
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why he's gone too. I mean,
that's a nice Horner card.
That is a nice Horner card. He's got the checkered flag, fitting with Red Bull's season so far. That's a really neat looking card.
That's cool.
With Pierre Gasly. And Lewis.
That's a young Lewis, isn't it?
No, that's like 2 years ago.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, he's just aged a lot because I don't know. He's sad Lewis now.
He's sad Lewis. I think he was pretty...
He's been happy, actually, the last couple of races. And he yoinked the fastest lap.
Oh, yeah.
That was funny. Max was begging. If you want to hear entertaining team radio, Max and his engineer were hilarious this week. Just like the
being snarky with each other.
Oh, they're being so snarky and sassy. That's very shiny.
That is a very shiny. Oh, we got some shiny cards at the back. So we got a Max winning his trophy, as usual.
Dominant.
Ha! Then we have Jehan Daruvula, who had the lead in the F2 race, the sprint race. Yeah. And what happened? He took himself out. Well, he didn't really take himself out. Like, I have no idea how his...
I don't know what he did to himself.
His shoulder harness actually popped out of his car. And he basically took himself out of the race. So, typical Jehan Daruvula fashion, took himself out. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. Sorry, Jehan. And Sergio.
He's happy. He's like, I got second.
I got second place. And this is a sparkly Mick Schumacher. I was gonna say rookie, but I don't think it is rookie. It could be.
He did 2 seasons.
This is an interesting card. Yeah. So it's number out of 299. It's like a sparkle. That is a neat looking Schumacher card. That is interesting. I think his rookie year is actually in this set here, but Sergio, he's like, yes, second place. But yeah.
It was I don't know. It was a good race.
Spa is a beautiful track. I don't know if I would go see a race in Spa.
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one.
I think if you were, you'd got to sit at the top of Eau Rouge or Radeon. Like, you got to be right along that crazy set of curves and inclines and.
Yeah, I mean, I saw one video where, back in the 60s or 70s, like people, like you can actually have photographers that were on. That was just ridiculous, right?
Lots of things they used to do in F1 they don't do anymore.
SD Bestie. He had an okay race.
Okay race.
Yeah. Lando Norris. I don't know. I think as good of a driver as he is, like he does get. It's weird that he gets annoyed with his engineers. Like, just leave me alone. Let me drive.
No,
like,
he's not as bad as Yuki. Yuki's the worst
Oh,
one.
that's true. That's true. And last but not least, boom. Oh. Oh. Oh well. It's no longer racing. That's not really worth anything. But well, we have a month off now. Summer break, and I think that a lot of the silliness in the summer has.
I don't think there's going to be. I think the silliness was Alpine this time around. I don't expect any driver moves. There's some contracts like K-Meg has to get his contract signed. I don't think Haas will do anything there.
I mean, Nick DeVries being ousted was probably one of the had earlier. So not anything really big that's going to happen. So I guess we'll see you in the next race in the Netherlands. Have a great month, folks. Take care.